So we're starting a new series this morning, church. And the series is entitled Explaining World Events. And the intent is to look at world events in the context of history and Bible prophecy. It's going to be a series I've not done quite like this before. It's going to be a series where I'll be trying by God's grace to explain now. Explaining now. So the question is, why a series on explaining world events? Here is the basis for it. The book Education, page 179, the 5th paragraph says, and I really want us to get in tune. This is going to be, it won't be an easy sermon. It's going to be a very university level, some of the stuff we'll be discussing. But it's going to be important because you're going to see some remarkable application. And I'm trusting that we'll understand now far better. And I'm trusting that our lives will be changed. So I really want us to be clued in. It is not going to be one of the typical sermons. It's going to be kind of deep. But I really want us to get wired in. So let's pay attention. Please, clearly. So why this series? Explaining world events viewed in the context of history and Bible prophecy. Education, page 179, 5th paragraph says, the present is a time of overwhelming interest to all living. Rulers and statesmen, men who occupy positions of trust and authority, thinking men, and women of all classes have their attention fixed upon events taking place about us. They are watching the strained, restless relations that exist among the nations. They observe the intensity that is taking possession of every earthly element, and they recognize that something great and decisive is about to take place, that the world is on the verge of a stupendous crisis. Yes. Now let me be clear to us. What I'm going to present here is not a knee-jerk reaction. It's something I've spent at least the last 10 years studying. As a matter of fact, 10 years ago, I published some of what I'm going to study with you this morning, this book, The Loud Cry. It's 10 years past, it's out of print. And 10 years ago when I started studying this issue about world events in the context of history and Bible prophecy, the Lord was just showing me shadows. 10 years has passed. And I suspect probably what have allowed me to feel bold enough to present some of what I'm going to present now is because much of what I wrote about 10 years ago, and some of you guys have read this book here. I think at least two persons here, I'm pretty much sure about a copy of the book. And what I wrote about 10 years ago, it lined up, and it's coming to fruition. And I'm saying, wow, God, this is something special. But I've never preached this series before like this, so I'm going to do it this time. So why did I choose to do that this time? Well, recently I was walking with Steve and Keisha, and we were walking, doing our digestive walk one Sabbath after lunch. And we're talking about world events and stuff. And I made mention, you know what, I have a series written and put down for a very long time that I've never presented on world events. And they said, why not present it? And I said, possibly. So I was still uncertain until when I was coming back from Pittsburgh recently. I was flying from Pittsburgh to North Carolina, and I was on the plane, C-27F, I believe. And I was sitting beside a Caucasian couple. And we started talking when the plane was about to land. And he was a thinking man. And he was concerned about the events. And he felt like something was about that. I was just there chatting with this man, and that's what he was bringing to me. And I said, Lord, you have given me the confirmation. I need to be bold enough to present what I'm going to present today and this morning and this afternoon. So there are people asking questions. There are events going on in the world, people asking questions, and we are the only persons who can really answer the questions. But we're not speaking, and I'm not sure why. He was asking some very subtle and succinct questions about events of the world. did my best to answer him in the little time I had there. But I think God's people need to start speaking now. Or the rocks are going to start crying out. I'm going to hear what the rocks have to say this evening for a second sermon for the day. This morning I'm going to just lay the groundwork. And this morning is important because it's going to let this evening become much clearer. I've rarely ever asked people to promise me things. But I'm going to ask the church to promise me something this morning. Everybody who's in my ear, hearing my voice. Promise me that you will stick with what I'm going to say to you now, which is going to be very much historical facts and biblical application. But promise me that you're going to come back this evening. I don't think I've ever asked the church for a promise before. Because I believe this evening's discussion is going to change our lives and change how we view this world. So I beg of us, please. Let's hear what has to be said, and let's come back and hear the second part this afternoon. Let's get started. Review and Herald, November 8, 1881 says, "The prosperity of a nation is dependent upon the virtue and intelligence of its citizens. To secure these blessings, habits of strict temperance are indispensable." The history of where? Of who? Ancient kingdoms is replete with lessons of warning for who? For us. So she's saying, for a nation to survive, it has to show us clearly temperance and habits are indispensable. Is that so? Virtue, intelligence, strict temperance, and are indispensable. And she coaching that in the context of ancient kingdoms who are replete with lessons of warning for us. For us meaning us at this time. Luxury, self-indulgence, and dissipation prepare the way for their downfall. Oh, yeah. Church, are you listening? Yes. So she's saying if you want to understand the context of now, how must you understand the context of in what? Ancient what? Kingdoms. Kingdoms. She says, it remains to be seen whether our own republic, which republic we're talking about here? The United States of America have a republican government. Let's understand what that means. Republican government means in terms of republicanism, not the party, but the concept that the people are the ones who have all the power. Yes. So do we get that, friends? Yes. Republicanism means that the power is with the people. So she's saying here, we need to pay attention to ancient kingdoms, and the question remains to be seen whether or not this United States of America, which is a republican system of government, will be admonished by their example and avoid their fate. So would it be a stretch for me to say she's saying we need to look at ancient kingdoms, preferably one with a republican government, and see how they came to their what? Downfall, and see if we in turn can what? Avoid their fate. Is that what that is saying? Yes. I'm spending some time on this slide because it's going to be the basis of our study for this morning and this evening. So we're trying to establish that. So she's saying, let us look at ancient kingdoms, especially in the context of a republican system of government, because that's what we have in the US, and see how they went, and see if we are on their same trajectory. And if there's a possibility that we can veer off course, or we're going to go exactly where they went and had a downfall. So, let's get into it deeply now. The Bible, there's a biblical principle of understanding the Bible, especially prophecy, called repetition and enlargement. So you find that many times the Bible brings out a concept, a certain truth, initially in a small or general way. Then the next time it's mentioned in more detail. And then even another time it's mentioned in more detail. Are you following me? So repetition and enlargement. So Daniel chapter 2 speaks about 4 kingdoms. 4 world kingdoms. Let me say it one more time, brethren. The Bible says there are going to be only 4 world kingdoms. Let's just have that clear and right. That's not my word, the Bible says that. The first one was what? Babylon, the head of gold. Medo Persia, the chest and the arms of silver. Greece, the what? Brass. And then Rome was what? Iron initially, and then iron mixed with clay. I mean, am I correct so far? Yes. And the principle of repetition and enlargement says that in Daniel chapter 7, It's the same kingdoms we are seeing, but being depicted using animals this time. So we see a lion with eagle's wings, Babylon, Medo-Persia, bear, Greece, a leopard with four heads and 4 wings, and Rome, this indescript type of dragon-looking beast. And again in Daniel chapter 8, we see Medo-Persia and Greece being discussed in the context of goats. Now, why am I saying that? We're going to spend some time and look at Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 to 6. We're going to go through this really quickly because we pretty much know much of what I'm going to say initially. Then we're going to go get something deeper. Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told us some of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and beheld the 4 winds of heaven. Winds represents what? Strife. So this is a place in strife. Of winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Sea means what? Peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So Daniel in his vision saw war occurring in a place that was highly populated. And the process of this war going back and forth, he said he saw 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion with had eagle's wings. We're not going to spend time tarrying about these issues. We know the lion with eagle's wings represents Babylon. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. No. An interesting thing we need to realize is that when Babylon fell, the government fell, but not the religion of Babylon. So when Babylon fell, following the conquest of Mesopotamia, where Babylon resided, by the Persians, the Medes and the Persians, the Babylonian priesthood fled to Pergamum in Asia Minor. Here they erected the Acropolis temples of Pergamum in honor of the Greek pantheon, but continued to worship the Babylonian mystery god under the name of Saturnus. So when Babylon fell as a nation, did the religion fall? No. It moved from Babylon to Pergamum. Pergamum in Asia Minor. Alright? So the Babylonian religion did not die. It just moved from one place to another. So here we're saying, so in 539 BC, Satan took his seat to Pergamum. So here is Babylon. When Babylon was about to fall, the priesthood of Babylon went along this highway, and they went to a place called Pergamos in Asia Minor, and they re-established their religion. That's historical facts. Daniel 7 now verse 5 says, and I beheld another beast, a second like a what? Bear. Who is the bear? Medo-Persia. Alright? And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Then a 3rd kingdom is being seen now. And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given it. This leopard is who? Greece. Alright? Now here is where the discussion is going to be on for the rest of the discussion, the rest of the morning. The 4th beast. Daniel 7 verse 7. And after this I saw the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, it devoured in breaking pieces, and stand residue with his feet of it. This we know is the iron monarchy of Rome. So we're going to spend our time now and discuss Rome. So firstly we said Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and then Rome. Rome. 4 beasts in Daniel 7. Our sermon this morning is going to be the rise and the fall of Rome. The rise and the fall of Rome. So the history of Rome can be described in 4 aspects. It rose as a kingdom initially. Then over time it became a republic. Then it became an empire. Then the empire fell. So the history of Rome can be in 4 parts. Kingdom of Rome, the Republic of Rome, the Roman Empire, and then the fall of the empire. We're going to go through them quickly. We're going to spend most of our time on the Republic of Rome and the Roman Empire and the fall. We're not going to spend too much time on the Kingdom of Rome. Why? There's not much literature on it. Not much literature. So the Kingdom of Rome, its very scanty literature is about the kingdom of Rome, the first phase. Now, there's a legend that goes something like this. That Romulus and Remus were twin brothers, and they were from a Latin princess who was a Vestal virgin. And she was supposedly raped by Mars, and she bore twin sons called Romulus and Remus. And they were ordered to be killed by a Latin king, and they were placed out somewhere in the bushes, and they were suckled by a wolf. And they grew and they founded a city in 753 BC, and Romulus killed Remus, and from Romulus rose up Rome. No, listen what I say, it's a legend. Legend. It's a legend that had it that way. I'm not saying that's how it went. It's a legend. But it's not uncommon that when you have a legend, there may be some truth attached to it. So, there is some historical evidence that they were the Etruscans conquered the Romans, non-Latin king, and the Romans eventually overthrew the Etruscans and established a kingdom. And they have found ruins of a king dates in about the 8th century BC, and they postulated it could be Romulus. But we're not going to spend too much time and discuss what we don't know much about. Alright? So just accept that there is a kingdom called Rome. Now, after a while, Rome changed from a kingdom and became a republic. And everything I'm going to say here, friends, I'm going to give sources. I'm not going to say much this morning. I'm just going to be reading from different sources and use the Bible and apply it as we go along. So Rome, the first great republic. Rome was established as a republic in 509 BC. The republic grew and flourished for several hundred years. And the government of ancient Rome is very interesting. And I'm going to spend some time and going into some details. So Rome was originally ruled by kings. We discussed that before. But in 509 BC, the Romans created a republic. A republic is a form of government in which citizens have the power to elect leaders. Listen carefully, friends. Okay. And we're discussing this in the context of the Roman Republic and whether or not this country is going to follow in its stead. Friends, are you following now? Yeah. So we're going to look at the Roman Republic. And we're advised from the book Education that we need to study ancient kingdoms to determine if we're going to follow their downfall. Are you following where we see where we're going now? Yeah. No. So, the government of the Roman Republic was like this. There are two men who were consuls. So they never had one man. Two men were consuls. And below these two men, they had senators and they had tribunes. So it was a three-part in terms of the power being shared. Are you seeing that? Yeah. Are you seeing that? Mm-hmm. So the one consul could veto the opinion of the other consul and vice versa. Below the senators and the tribunes, there were citizens' assemblies, adult male citizens. So this was the structure of the Roman Republic government. It made up a mixture of what they call patricians, which were the wealthy class, and the plebeians. You ever heard it? Your plebe? Lower class. Initially, it was mainly the patricians, but over time, the plebeians got their stay, and this is what it looked like. So it was a three-part government: councils, senators, tribunes, and there was another area called the citizens of assemblies. Now, why is this important? Because the political system was a republic. They had the consuls, we talk about that. The senate or the patricians were mainly the upper class. The tribunes, the plebeians were the lower class. And they focused, and this system allowed them to focus a lot on military expansion. One of these consuls, his job was just to run the military. The other consul, his job was just to administer the country in itself. But they shared the responsibility in terms of one could veto the other one. Listen carefully. There are 12 tables where they created laws that everyone must follow, and the intent of these laws was to protect the lower class. They had a constitution. The constitution did not give the people rights. Their rights were inherent. The constitution was to protect the people from the government. You got that, friends? So that was the Roman system. That was the Roman system. Now, the Roman government had three parts. The first, the Romans elected two consuls. The consuls were like kings. Put that in quotation. One led the government, the other led the army. They could veto each other's decisions. More detail now. Consuls, they were chosen, chosen annually. They only had a term of 1 year. They are top government officials. They ran the army, only served a year, less likely to abuse power, and they veto power over the others' decisions. That were the consuls. The praetor interpreted the laws and acted as judges. Are you listening, friends?
Yeah. Yes.
The Senate, legislative body, law-making body, 300 male partitions, served life terms. And the Assembly of Centuries, legislative body, elected consuls and praetors, passed laws. So they had a tri-part or three-part government. They had a legislative branch,
Yeah.
they had a judicial branch, and they had a executive branch. Alright? So that was historically how the Roman Republic was established. They had a system of checks and balances.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same way.
First, are you see checks and balances?
Yeah.
So these could check these, and these could check these, and these could check these. And these here could check these there.
Same system.
And they did not separate powers like our present government. Now, we discussed a while ago the structure of this tripartite republican system that the Romans had. But after a while, they adapted a religious system that was the Babylonian system. So the religion of Babylon, we said, moved to Pergamon in 539 BC, and by 133 BC, it moved to Rome. So after a while, Rome became a country of sun worship. So follow me carefully now. So they had a republican system of government with a tripartite system with a checks and balances. And after a while, they embraced our system of sun worship by 133 BC. So, the rise and the fall of the Roman Republic. The rise as a republic in 509 BC, a tripartite government, system of checks and balances, and 12 tables with laws, or we call a constitution. The turning point to the Roman Republic and repudiation of its constitution. Repudiation means what? Turning your back on. Putting aside. So what was the turning point of this Roman Republic, which lasted for several hundred years, on this system of this tripartite government? Legislative, judicial, and executive, checks and balances lasted for hundreds of years. In the autumn of 68 BC, the Roman port at Ostia was set on fire. Now this was unheard of. Rome was the ruling power in the entire world. And in 68 BC, the Roman port at Ostia was set on fire. This was unheard of in the Roman world. A war on terror was declared by the famous Roman general Pompey. Pompey. I wonder if you guys follow me so far. So several hundred years of the Republic, port in Ostia was set on fire. This is history I'm giving you. And a war on terror was declared. A war on terror was declared by the famous Roman general Pompey. In the panicky aftermath of the attack, the Roman peoples made decisions that would set them on the path to destruction of their constitution, their liberty, democracy, and their liberty. This, you guys have to come back this evening. Because this is going to explode with meaning this evening. It's going to explode with meaning this evening. You must come back this evening. I'm just laying the foundation right now. To obtain the required power to wage this war on terror, Pompey's opponents were cowed into submission, and the Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila was passed. So, hundreds of years of the Republic under a tripartite system with checks and balances, there was this pirate attack or terrorist attack, and a war on terror was declared. And they started passing laws. You see where I'm going? But the Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila were two laws passed. Lex mean laws. Gabinia and Lex Manila. What were these laws? Voted by the people for the Lex Gabinia, which is a law against pirates, or like law against what? Terrorists, alright? And the Lex Manila, the mixture of these. I'm going to explain that one some more. So, Pompey was given imperium infinitum for 3 years. full imperial power. You understand what imperial means in terms of kingly power?
Yes.
Dictator power. Nobody questioned my authority power.
Right.
For 3 years. No. The Lex Gabinia was about the pirates. Powers over the whole Mediterranean over and 50 miles inland, unlimited funds, men and ships. So 50 miles inland into Rome and the entire Mediterranean, he was given total power and control of. You can do it as you want it. Just get rid of these pirates and these terrorists. The mystery of the deities, permission to make war or peace on his own initiative. Let's get this importance of this. In the Roman Republic, only Senate could determine war. Friends, you follow me?
Yes.
But they passed this law, Lex Manila, where Pompey, by his own self, can declare war. Takes command of all forces under Lucullus, as well as his own existing army. And while that was going on, there was some intrigue going on in the background. There were 3 men who came to form the first triumvirate. A triumvirate is 3 persons in agreement for a common cause. 3 persons were Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. The first triumvirate was an extra legal alliance. Did the Roman constitution support a triumvirate? No, because the power is with who? The people. No. So the first triumvirate was an extra legal, that's why it's extra legal, outside the law. Alliance formed in 60 BC by 3 already famous generals, Pompey and Crassus, had been consuls together in 70 BC, but had later fallen out over questions of status and prestige. Caesar, who was a younger and something of a protege of Crassus, brought the 2 back together. Each brought something to the table. Caesar led the populares, Pompey led the optimati, Crassus, the richest man in Rome, led the equites, merchant class. Caesar sealed the deal by giving his daughter Julia in marriage to Pompey. So there was this extra legal banding together of these 3 groups. Now, the passing of the Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila was a key development in the collapse of the Senate as a ruling power in Rome. So the passing of these 2 laws, the Senate lost their power, and the power was more now with the what? Consuls. Friends, are you following me? Follow me carefully, friends. Because there's a lot of parallels here now, and I'm being laborious in this because I want us to get the parallels. This law gave Pompey unprecedented power to wage war and terror. The historian Plutarch noted that during the debates of the Senate hearings, the only man to speak out in favor of Pompey's command was Julius Caesar. The precedent was set. The power was shifted from the people and was now in the hands of the few. The tenets of republicanism were shaken. So, Rome established a republican system of government, tripartite system, legislative, judicial, and executive. Checks and balances ran well for hundreds of years. There was this terror attack where the port in Ostia was set on fire in 68 BC. 2 laws came about, Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila. Lex Gabinia, as we learned before what that law was all about, let's go back to it so we can make sure we remember, was that Pompey was given powers to extend what? Entire Mediterranean and 50 miles inland, and of course he was also given power to what? Make war and peace on his own initiative. And that caused the undermining of this tenets of republicanism, which said there must be checks and balances, where the Senate became weak and the consuls became what? Stronger. So, war and terror was a turning point. 68 BC, Rome's port at Ostia was set on fire, war and terror declared. Pompey's opponents were cowed in submission. Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila were passed. Fall of the Roman Republic. Julius Caesar rise to power. In 60 BC, a military leader, Julius Caesar, joined forces with Crassus, a wealthy Roman and Pompey, a popular general. With their help, Caesar was elected to the council in 59 BC. The first triumvirate formed by Caesar, Crassus, Pompey, ruled Rome for the next 10 years. Now, Caesar was in Gaul, which is just north of Italy. Just follow me carefully. He was deployed he was a general deployed on a missionary and military endeavor in Gaul, which was north of Italy. There was some issue about whether or not he was in obedience to the Senate and the Roman system of government in terms of him being deployed. So they said to him, you need to come back. But here's what's interesting now. As long as he was deployed as a general in the war, he could not be prosecuted based on the laws that would govern citizens.
Wow. Wow.
So they said to him, come back as a citizen. And he says, no. Because if I come back as a citizen, what is going to happen to me? I'm going to be prosecuted as a citizen.
Yes.
So, Caesar brought his soldiers to the river Rubicon in the winter and tried to negotiate a compromise with Pompey. They tried very split now. They have issues between themselves.
Yeah.
Pompey refused to negotiate. He thought for an hour or so. He spoke with his officers. Then he gave the orders to cross the Rubicon January 10th of 49 BC. The moment his soldiers set foot on the other side, Caesar was automatically an outlaw and his only course was to war. Here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. This is the Mediterranean. Here's the Adriatic Sea, the Ligurian Sea. This is Italy here. And the northern part of Italy was called Gaul, where Caesar had his military deployment. Here's the Rubicon. Here is Italy proper. There was a Roman law. Listen carefully, friends. Everything I'm saying, I'm being slow and laborious for a reason. Everything I'm saying is going to be applied. There was a Roman law that says no standing army must ever cross the Rubicon. In other words, the military must not police the citizens. Friends, are you listening to me? The military must not police the citizens. So Caesar knew that once he crossed the Rubicon, war was declared. And that's exactly what happened. There was a massive civil war. He did cross Rubicon. So Julius Caesar crosses the Rubicon. Here it is, cross Rubicon. Julius Caesar is declared dictator for life by the Roman Senate.
Whoa.
So he came, massive civil war, he won. Pompey had to flee. Pompey actually died far somewhere, I believe in Egypt. But he was declared as what? Dictator for life. Now, so, what are we saying? Rome went through a period, there were the kings, then the Roman Republic, then there was a civil war, and then the Roman Empire under the emperors. So, after Caesar's death, he was assassinated. Rome changed in 44 BC. People no longer trusted the Senate to rule Rome, and the Roman Republic came to an end, and the empire began. Listen carefully. A kingdom, a republic, then a what? Empire. Are you following me, friends?
Yeah.
Now, Julius Caesar adopted his nephew called Octavian. So after Julius Caesar was killed, assassinated, Octavian took revenge. And from a Roman Republic to a Roman Empire, that was accomplished in 27 BC. Octavian exacted revenge on the senators who assassinated Julius Caesar. Octavian soon became undisputed ruler of Rome, renaming himself Augustus Caesar. Augustus being the exalted one, Julius Caesar's last name became what? The title for emperor. So when you hear people say Caesar, so every other emperor came after Augustus used Caesar in their title, because Caesar became synonymous with what? Emperor. And that's why you have Tsar, C-Z-A-R, and that's why you have T-S-A-R. It's coming from Caesar. Are you following me, friends?
Yeah.
Alright, very good. Now everything I'm saying is of application.
Amen.
I really want you guys to listen carefully. I'm not throwing darts, no, I'm aiming at a target. So everything I'm saying, remember it for this evening. So here was Augustus, the first Roman emperor. Then Tiberius, then Gaius, then Claudius, then Nero, then Vespasian, then Titus, then Domitian, then Nerva, then Trajan, then Adrian, then Antonius Pius, then Marcus Aurelius, then Commodus, Septimus Servius, Alexander Servius, Decius, Diocletian, and Constantine. Alright? So here we are now. So we're filling out this chart. So the fall of the Roman Republic and the rise of the empire. 49 BC, Julius Caesar broke Roman law that forbade the legions, that of the army, from crossing the Rubicon into Italy proper. Commenced the fall of the Roman Republic, Julius Caesar made him constitutional dictator. Let me explain that. In the Roman system of government, there was an option within the constitution to have a dictator. But the dictator was only served for a certain time. Within the constitution. So yes, there is such thing as called a constitutional dictator. So that in certain times of crises, within the Roman constitution, they would elevate a man and say, you are a dictator for a year or two. Your job is to deal with this problem. After you deal with the problem, you step aside. Julius Caesar didn't step aside. So he became dictator for life. And when he died, along with him fell the what? The republic, and what rose up? Empire. And as we saw here that in 27 BC, the rise of the empire with Emperor Augustus Caesar and a succession of imperial Roman emperors. Third State Union. Remember we discussed Constantine? He was one of the emperors. Constantine, considered Rome's first Christian emperor, was himself a devotee of the sun god. The famous vision of the cross as he marched on Rome came to him from the sun. So he said, so he was in battle. And it seemed as if his prospects were dismal. And he said he got this vision of a cross in the sky, and he accepted that as a sign from God that he was going to be victorious. The sun appeared on most of his coins, and his own statue at Constantinople bore the red crown of the sun god. His coins were inscribed Sol Invicto, committed to the invincible sun. While claiming to be a Christian, Constantine maintained the title Pontifex Maximus, the high priest of paganism. So did Constantine declare to be a Christian?
Yes.
Please, Burton, please answer me.
Yes.
Did he declare himself to be a Christian? Yes. But what was he really? He was pagan.
Yeah.
And what did he do? What was he involved in? Sun worship.
Yes.
So he portrayed himself to be a Christian. I'm looking at you guys.
Yeah.
But was really a worshiper of the sun. Paganism, alright? That is pregnant with meaning. This is even going to be an interesting evening. So, Mystery Babylon the Great. So when Constantine declared himself a Christian in 312 AD, he declared Christianity the one religion and decreed all other religions to become Christian. Babylonianism then became the church. With himself as head of the church, he was also retained the pagan title of Pontifex Maximus, or the bridge builder, yeah? Over the Babylonian church as well. This is one of his coins coming to the invincible sun. Now, we're going to get back now to our scripture reading this morning, which came from Revelation chapter 2 from verse 12 to 17. Church compromise during Pergamum. So let's go through this. I'm going to give some general comments, and then I'm going to spend some time and explore the 14th verse. So I'm going to read through it. General comments, then spend some time to explore the 14th verse in more detail. To the angel of the church in Pergamum. We learned before that Pergamum was a place that where went to Pergamum? The Babylonian priesthood went to Pergamum. We learned that?
Yes.
So that's where, when Babylon fell, the priesthood went to where? Pergamum. These are the words of him who had a sharp double-edged sword. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. So where was the center of satanic worship then? Pergamum. Pergamum. Because the Babylonian priesthood moved from Babylon from 539 BC to Pergamum. Now, yet you remain true to my name. You did not renounce your faith in me, even the days of Antipas, which mean Antipas, Anti-Papa, Anti-Pope, anti-Babylonian system. Are you following what Antipas means?
Yeah.
So it's been used here as a person, but it's really mean person who are anti to the papacy, anti to the Roman system. Follow me, friends. So Antipas is really anti-Papa, anti-Papa, Papa mean Pope, Antipas, anti-Papa. my faithful witness who was put to death in your city where Satan lives. Listen up. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. You have people there who hold to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin by eating food sacrificed to idols and committing sexual immorality. So follow me carefully, you know. We hear about food being sacrificed to idols, and with the people of God partaking of this food sacrificed to idols, and they're committing what? Sexual immorality. Likewise, you have also those who hold to the teaching of Nicolaitans. The word Nicolaitan really means above the laity. So speaking about a system now where the laity and the priesthood are not the same, but the priesthood what? Rising above the what? Laity. Friends, are you following this out?
Yes.
Yes.
Nicolaitans. It means above the laity. God's intention was to have the priesthood and the laity to get all at one level. But we see a system coming in being now where what? The priesthood is rising above the what? Laity. A hierarchy is being established. Now, listen now. Repent therefore, otherwise I will soon come to you and fight against you with the sword of my mouth. Double-edged sword, that's the word of God. Are you following me, friends?
Yes.
He wasn't here, let him hear what the Spirit has to say to the churches. To him that overcometh, I'll give some of the hidden manna. So look at the contrast between the food now. Here we saw about food sacrificed to idols for those who are disobedient and follow Balak as Balaam instructs Balak, versus those who are obedient. There's a hidden manna. Who does the manna from heaven represented? Jesus Christ. I will also give him a white stone with a new name. Name in character. A new character. Written on it, known only to him who receives it. So a contrast is being made here. Those who subscribe to Balaam and Balak's theology, which results in what? Eating food sacrificed to idols and committing sexual immorality, spiritual sense, versus those who God gives the what? Overcoming power, and he gives them what? The true food, the true bread, which is what? The hidden manna, which is Christ himself, and a transformed character. That's my general comments. I want us to zoom in now on verse 14. Alright, so we're going to zoom in on verse 14 now. Verse 14 says, Revelation 2:14, but I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed and idols and to commit fornications. Let's break it down now. Doctrine of Balaam. Who was Balaam? Balaam was a mighty prophet. Numbers 22 and 31 describes Balaam. Balak was a king of Moab. Remember that story? So the king of Moab named Balak went to Balaam, a true prophet, and said to him, I want you to come and curse the people of God. So what? I can have victory over them. And even though God did everything to convince Balaam otherwise, Balaam was greedy and disobedient. And when he even went, what was supposed to come as a curse came out of the what? A blessing.
Mercy.
So here we see the imagery that we find in the Old Testament is being applied as it relates to the time of Pergamum. Now, listen carefully now. So Balak, the king of Moab, was afraid of the children of Israel as they were going through his land and paid Balaam to curse Israel. But every time Balaam opened his mouth to curse, he blessed Israel, for God was with Israel. Balaam, seeing Balak obviously frustrated and also paying him, went on to devise with Balak how to make the children of Israel to stumble. Allow them to mix with the Moabite women, commit fornication, and to eat meat sacrificed to idols. This was an unholy alliance with paganism, and so at Balaam's suggestion, the children of Israel became polluted spiritually and socially. This unholy alliance happened for the persecuted church of Smyrna, which was the previous church. No, during this time period of Pergamum, the devil changed tactics and used infiltration. Since he could not kill the Christians by cursing them, he used a certain emperor. Now, this I'm making reference to is from the story of the Seer of Patmos by Stephen Askell, one of our pioneers. And these men were brilliant. Look at the insight he's going to give now, who Balaam and Balak is. As we're discussing now the church-state union. during the time of Pergamon, when there was a time of compromise. This is what he says. If in reading this paragraph, Revelation 2:12-17, the word Balaam is replaced by the church, the then church, in the 4th and 5th centuries, and for Balak is read Constantine or the Roman Empire. So you see what he's doing? He's describing Balaam as the church. Yes, are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Because Balaam was the what? Prophet. And Balak as who? As Constantine. And this is what he says now. The exact history of the church is portrayed. So he said that if you understand the relationship between Balaam and Balak, and use as a template what happened in the Old Testament, the book of Numbers, it brings clarity what happened during the time of Constantine. Where Balaam induced Balak to tell the children of Israel what? Commit fornication and eat meat sacrificed to what? Idols. So listen now. The church had known God, but it became covetous. Just like who? Balaam. While it still professed allegiance to the Most High, the church, tempted by the rich offers of the government, parlayed with its ambassadors and refused to declare the statutes of Jehovah and remain a separate and peculiar people. The union of church and state was formed in order to obtain the privileges and protection of the civil power. Church, we heard that? The union of church and state was formed in order to obtain the privileges and protection of the civil power. So, continues. Then was it that the spiritual sins of idolatry and fornication were introduced. Idolatry was a love of money, like Balaam, yes?
Yeah.
The world and false worship, which took the place of the worship of Jehovah. It is fornication in the eyes of God when his people were wedded to. And Pergamos mean to be to wedded, that's another interpretation of Pergamos. To any power save the arm of omnipotence.
Yeah.
So it's during the time of Pergamum, that's when the church compromise started. And the church-state unions started to come together during the time of Pergamum. Are you following me so far?
Yes.
No. Edict of Milan is issued by Constantine. What's the Edict of Milan? In 313 AD, Constantine Augustus issued jointly with his colleague Licinius the Edict of Milan, which granted religious liberty to all of whatever religious belief. The Edict of Milan was intended to bring the church and the state together. The churches were incorporated as governmental agencies. So there was persecution going on. Constantine said, you know what? Let's leave the persecution aside. Let's unite church and state. Let's pass this Edict of Milan, which would allow the churches to become incorporated. I'm going to actually read to you the Edict of Milan. This is the Edict of Milan. Alright? And it's coming from the University of Pennsylvania Department of History. So there's a translation that they did of the Edict of Milan. Very important. Listen carefully. Everything I'm saying of application. Edict of Milan, Constantine Augustus and Licinius Augustus. When I, Constantine Augustus, as well as I, Licinius Augustus, fortunately met near medieval London Milan, and were considering everything that pertained to the public welfare and security. Public welfare and?
Security.
Public welfare and?
Security.
So what was the driving issue between the Edict of Milan? Public welfare and? Security. Alright, very good. We thought among other things that we saw, we thought among other things which we saw would be for the good of many. They are being honest now. I said the good of all, good of many. Those regulations pertaining to the reverence of the divinity ought certainly to be made first, so that we might grant to the Christians and others, we might what?
Grant.
Did it say it was an inherent right? No. Through this edict we're going to what? Grant you full authority to observe which religion which you prefer. And since these Christians are known to have possessed not only those places in which they were accustomed to assemble, but also other property, namely the churches belonging to them as a and not as
Individual.
So the Edict of Milan was an enticement to the churches to say what? Become what? incorporated so you can get back your what? Your lands and your property. Brethren, please stay awake. Process everything I'm saying to you. Because if you don't get it this morning, brethren, I'm going very slow, I'm going unusually slow. And I really want us to understand this evening's discussion. Everything I'm saying will be applied this evening. Point I want us to appreciate. Through the church-state union, the churches went through incorporation. I'm setting that foundation here historically. Friends, are you following that?
Yeah.
All these things which we have included under the above law, you will order to be restored. So they had lost all their properties, and now they were supposed to be what? Incorporated to what? Get what?
Yes.
Get them back. So they were being encouraged with what? Enticements. Are you seeing, friends?
Yes.
So what are corporations? Corporations at its origin with the Greeks. It has a state at its head and sovereign. Friends, you heard that?
Yes.
Corporations as who has its head? The state and sovereign. It is a body formed by law to act as a single person, an artificial person. It has a capacity to transact business as an individual and is under strict state control. So when a church is incorporated and following along with a given plan, it becomes a what? State church. Are you seeing that? State church. Corporations. The acute minds of these Athenians developed a very conservative body of law. There was a well-developed division of law as to artificial such as religious societies like churches, approaching our churches, yes, clubs, burial societies, privateering or piratical societies, the like. The bylaws of such organizations were treated as lawful and binding. The modern law of corporations can be traced through Romans to the Greeks. No, here it is now. Corporations were well known to the Roman law, and they existed from the earliest periods of the Roman Republic. But the Romans were not so indulgent as the Greeks. They were very jealous of such combinations of individuals, and they restrained those that were not specifically authorized, and every corporation was illicit that was not ordained by a decree of the Senate or the... So what the churches encouraged or enticed to incorporate? Yes. Clearly, because if not, they wouldn't be able to have their lands and they get their tax exemption and all that comes with being incorporated. So, church-state union. AD 313, Edict Covenant passed by Emperor Constantine. Churches were encouraged to be incorporated. Emperor Constantine passed the Sunday law.
Mercy.
4 stages in the making of the Sunday law. How many stages I say, friends?
4.
And the one to come, which we're going to study later on this series, is going to be 4 stages likewise. It will be 4 stages. I'm going to show you it's 4 stages. Let's see the 4 stages now. Stage 1, Sunday law, Sunday rest law. In 321 AD, Constantine Augustus issued the... You ever keep talking about Constantine? You realize that? Yeah. Now they're going to talk about it this evening. I think we're going to talk to you about it this evening like that. Come back this evening and hear about Constantine. No. 321 AD, Constantine Augustus issued the famous Sunday law, which served to unite his Christian and pagan. Friends, I'm dropping seeds along the path. The Sunday law intent was to unite Christians and the pagan subjects. In the Venerable Day of the Sun, the first Christian Sunday law states. This is actually the exact Sunday law now under Constantine. Let all the judges and town people and the occupation of all trades rest on the Venerable Day of the Sun. Which day is that? Sunday. But let those who are situated in the country, freely and at full liberty, attend to the business of agriculture, because it often happens that no other day is so fit for sowing corn and planting vines, lest the critical moment being let slip, men should lose the commodities granted by heaven. Corpus Juris Civilis Code. This is from the Roman Code. This is the first Sunday law. You realize that law that speaks about us what? Rest. Are you realizing that? So the first Sunday law is about what? Sunday what? The first stage is about what? Rest. Are you seeing that? This is the real deal, friend. That's the real McCoy I'm reading for you. Now, stage 2. Sunday worship enforcement. So look at this now. 321 AD, 4 years later, it's been upped. Constantine Augustus convened the Council of Nicaea, which he dominated in order to secure unity in the church. Subsequently, his enforcement of that unity against heretical Christians in favor of the Catholic Church. So the first stage of the Sunday law is a Sunday rest law. Second stage is that what? Enforcement to what? Keep what? Sunday. Alright. Third stage. So follow me now. 321, 325, 360 now. Anti-Sabbath law. Council of Laodicea, canon law. So this is law for canon. You seen that? It's a law. Christians shall not Judaize or keep Sabbath and be idle on Saturday, Sabbath original, but shall work on that day. But the Lord's day they shall especially what? So now it's becoming a what? Anti-Sabbath law.
Yes.
So we saw the first was a what? Rest law, then a Sunday enforcement law, then a what? No what? Anti-Sabbath law. By 380 AD, the Edict of Thessalonica made the Catholic Christianity the only religion legally tolerated in the Roman Empire. I want us to realize something. You realize something interesting happened with Constantine? Initially, it seemed as if he was for religion.
Yes. Mercy.
And what came as a result of his for religion? He became what? Anti-Christian. Not only anti-Christian, but anti-Christian, anti-Sabbath Christian. And then we see rise, the papacy rising. And stage 4 is the death decree. By 530 AD, the Justinian decree appointed the Bishop of Rome as the corrector of heretics, and thus began the 1,260 years of peace and persecution of the Dark Ages. So, I'm going to give you a few quotations now to show you historically that there was indeed 7 Sabbath Christians, 7-day Sabbath Christians persecution. And everything I'm saying to your friends, going to have its counterpart this evening in our study. The following quotes show that it's the persecution that Sabbath observers had experienced in the past and a prelude to the future. Iphans, king of Aragon, etc. To all archbishops, bishops, and to all others, we command you that heretics, to wit, the Waldenses, and in Shabbati, those who keep the Sabbath, should be expelled away from the face of God and from all Catholics in order to depart from our kingdom. And now the references at the end of the presentation. This zeal for Saturday keeping continued for a long time. Even little things which might strengthen the practice of keeping Saturday were what? Punished. Moreover, this same Pope Gregory had issued an official pronouncement against a section of the city of Rome itself because the Christian believers there rested and worshipped on the Sabbath. Some had suffered torture because they would not rest when others kept Sunday, for they declared it to be the holiday and law of the Antichrist. And fifth, Catholic Provincial Council at Bergen. We are informed that some people in different districts of the kingdom have adopted and observed Saturday keeping. It is severely forbidden in Holy Church canon, church law, one and all to observe days except in those which the Holy Pope, Archbishop, or the Bishops command. Saturday keeping must under no circumstance be permitted hereafter, further than the Church canon commands. So, here we are now, friends. National apostasy in 321 AD, national Sunday law passed by Emperor Constantine, and we saw the persecution of 7-day Sabbath-keeping Christians.
Yeah.
Wrapping up now, about 5 more minutes and wrapping up. Fall and absorption of the Roman Republic. Back to Daniel 7. After this I saw the night visions, and I beheld a 4th beast, pagan Rome, yes? Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10. So they've seen a change now. We see initially this indescript beast. We see it, but we see that change right now. We see it mentioned now what? It had 10 horns. Let's talk about that. So by 300 AD, CE, common era, that's really AD, the Roman Empire was separated in 2 regions for administrative purposes. Remember we saw the Edict of Milan, there were two persons they mentioned, Licinius and Constantine. See the reason why? There are two centers of administration. The Western Roman Empire, which capital was in Rome, and the Eastern Roman Empire, capital was where? Constantinople. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Now, there began invasions of the Roman Empire. The Vandals, the Visigoths, the Goths, the Vandals, the Huns, and Rome began to implode. And Roman Empire absorbed into 10 kingdoms of Daniel 7:7. So what was the entire Roman Empire when all these barbarian tribes came in? Rome was absorbed into a system of 10 kingdoms. Anglo-Saxon, the Franks, Alemanni, Lombards, Ostrogoths, Earli, Burgundians, the Suevi, Visigoths, and the Vandals. Important principle. Come back this evening. The setting up of the Sunday law by Emperor Constantine signaled national apostasy. National apostasy was followed by national ruin. The Roman Empire fell and was absorbed into a system of 10 kingdoms. Those are the 10 horns. Study Revelation 8 and 9 for an account of the fall of the Western and the Eastern Roman Empires, respectively. This series won't touch this primarily. Principle. National apostasy is followed by national ruin. So national apostasy was seen in Constantine's son-in-law, and Roman Empire fell and was absorbed. Daniel 7:8 now says, I considered the horns and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So we see here that amongst the 10 horns, a little horn rose, which we know is the papacy. And when it rose, it uprooted the Earli, Ostrogoths, and the Vandals. So, the 10 horns already been shown arose when Rome, the 4th kingdom, was divided into 10 kingdoms. So, we see here that the Roman Empire now what? Imploding, falling in, and rising up is 10 kingdoms. And amongst 10 kingdoms rise up another kingdom and plucks up what? 3 other kingdoms. And this division was completed by AD 476. Little horn power, which was to arise after them, and before whom 3 of the other kingdoms, the Earli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths fell, was the papacy. So, these were the original 10, which became these nations, but these 3 were destroyed when the papacy rose. The Vandals, the Earli, and the Ostrogoths. No. Taylor in his book, in 1922, page 109, says, in 533 AD, Justinian, Emperor of Eastern Rome, issued a decree declaring the Bishop of Rome the corrector of heretics and head over all the churches. Immediately the working of putting down Arianism was begun with new vengeance in order that the decree might become effective. And the very next year, the Vandals were subjugated. This work being followed in 538 AD by the what? Uprooting of the what? Ostrogoths in 538 AD. So by 538 AD, the papacy had what? Control. So when the fall of the Roman Empire, the papacy, that the Roman Catholic Church, rose to supremacy in 538 AD. National apostasy with the son-in-law led to national ruin. And who rose up as a result of that national ruin? The papacy. Papacy. The papacy. What happened to the Roman Empire? It was what? Absorbed in a system of what? Of 10. So here we are. So the collapse and absorption of the empire. 476 AD commenced the fall of the Roman Empire. You can see Revelation 8 and 9. Roman Empire absorbed into the 10 kings of Daniel 7:7, and the papacy rose to absolute power in AD 538. So we're wrapping up now. Let's do a quick revision. Review of the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. So we saw here Rome rose as a republic in 509 BC and it had a tripartite government, legislative, judicial, and executive branch, with a system of checks and balances, so it ensured that there was balance between these three governmental institutions. And there was a system of 12 tables of laws or constitution, which protected the people from the war, from the government. Then we saw that this system of republican system of government lasted several hundred years, but there was a change, friends. There was a turning point, the War on Terror, which caused a repudiation of the Roman constitution.
Mercy.
68 BC, Rome's port at Ostia was set on fire. A war on terror was declared. Pompey's opponents were cowed into submission, and two laws were passed: Lex Gabinia and Lex Manila. Lex Gabinia gave a certain area where Rome, through Pompey, had full control to have imperial infinitum. Let me just give you guys a little hint at something. In prophecies or in parallels, the second application is always larger than the first application.
No.
Alright, just want to throw that seed out there. And in Lex Manila, it allowed Pompey to declare war and peace as he so chose. In the application of prophecy in the second stance, it's always much what? Larger. Then we saw in 49 BC, the fall of the Republic and the rise of the empire began. Julius Caesar broke Roman law that forbade the legions of Rome from crossing the Rubicon. Why? No standing army was allowed by law to enter into Rome. In other words, the military were not allowed to police the citizens. Not allowed. And Caesar knew that if he entered Rome as a common citizen, he would have been what? Prosecuted accordingly. So he chose to enter as what? As a general. But in doing that, he broke what? Roman law. Because the Rubicon was crossed. Julius Caesar was made constitutional dictator, but he was assassinated in 44 BC. And his nephew, Octavian, who became Augustus Caesar, was the first Roman emperor, and a succession of imperial emperors came. So friends, listen carefully. Don't miss this. After the Rubicon was crossed, Rome switched over to an empire with emperors. You got that, friends? So the crossing of the Rubicon was the what? A major change from republic to an empire. The crossing of the Rubicon was a major change from republic to an empire. Remember that. The crossing of the Rubicon was a major change from a republic to an empire. And what followed was a succession of what? Emperors. Church-state union in AD 313. The Edict of Milan passed by Emperor Constantine, and the churches were encouraged to be incorporated. They were enticed to. Why? Because there was a promise of them getting back all that they lost, and even more, and special favors as a result of being incorporated. But when the church became incorporated, it was now under the control of who? The what? State. State. And then we saw in 321 AD, the national son law was passed by Emperor Constantine, and persecution of the seven-day Sabbath-keeping Christians. The last phase we saw the collapse and absorption of the empire. Because national apostasy leads to national ruin. The national ruin came when Rome was an empire. Brethren, you got that? So Rome left from a republic, became an empire. On the empire stage, the son law was passed. On the empire stage when the fall started, in terms of the fall of the Roman Empire to be absorbed in 10 nations of Europe. Friends, you got that? Let me go one more time. One more time. On the stage of the Roman Empire is when the Edict of Milan was passed, which favored now pulling in the churches to our church-state union. Follow me, friends? Where we saw Balaam and Balak intermingling. On the empire stage is where the son-in-law is passed. On the empire stage is where the persecution occurs. On the empire stage is where Rome and empire collapses and is absorbed in the 10 nations that absorbed the Roman Empire. And lastly, friends, in 476 AD commenced the fall of the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman, in the Western Roman Empire in particular. And Rome Empire absorbed the 10 kingdoms of Daniel 7:7. And then we saw the papacy rose to absolute power in AD 538. And then we saw the 1,260 years of papal persecution. National apostasy during the time of the empire led to national ruin during the time of the empire, leading to the rise of papal Rome during the time of the empire. So, back to where we started. The prosperity of a nation is dependent upon the virtue and intelligence of its citizens. To secure these blessings, habits of strict temperance are indispensable. The history of ancient kingdoms is replete with lessons of warning for us. Luxury, self-indulgence, anticipation prepare the way for their downfall. It remains to be seen whether our own republic, the United States of America, will be admonished by their example and avoid their fate. So, the fall of the Roman Republic and Empire gave way to the then global rule of the papacy. It took almost 1800 years later for the establishment of the Second Great Republic, United States of America. Will the USA follow the steps of Rome in the demise of its republic and its replacement by imperialism? The question to answer this evening is this one. Are we Rome? Come back this evening for 6 o'clock. And it's going to be even more intense. Because then we're going to be applying all the principles that we established here. And let's see if the United States of America is following every single step as we saw in the Roman Republic. Let us see.
Yes.
Because we're told to study, aren't we?
Yes.
There it is. I'm not making it up.
No.
We're told to study. And see, is our republic following the historical republics? In this case, the Roman Republic. So I'm inviting you back this evening as we spend some time and answer, are we Rome? We want to close off in prayer.